kind of emotional just because the opportunity to continue studying isn't something my family has always been able to do.
A sense of relief tonight for student loan borrowers across the country. President Joe Biden announcing thousands of dollars in debt is being wiped clean. And he was the sheriff in Lincoln County accused of covering up for his son in a police investigation. Today, KREM 2 was there as he pleaded guilty and apologized in court.
As the cutoff low moves overhead, we're talking the risk of storms across much of the inland northwest.
KREM 2 News at 4 begins now with Whitney Ward and Jeremy Legoo.
Major news from the White House this afternoon. Millions of dollars of student loan debt will be forgiven. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. It was just hours ago President Joe Biden promised to eliminate $10,000 in student loan debt for millions of Americans. And if you had a federal Pell Grant, that then doubles to $20,000. KREM 2's Mark Hanrahan has been looking at the administration's plan for debt relief. He's joining us now right here in the studio. Mark, what do we know about who qualifies for this?
Well, Whitney, this just came down earlier today, so we are doing our best to get you the newest details. Right now, there are 45 million people with some level of student loan debt owing a total of $1.6 trillion. Here are the major headlines out of that press conference today. First, yes, the president's plan forgives $20,000 of debt for Pell Grant recipients and $10,000 for other federal borrowers. And only people making less than $125,000 a year are eligible. The other major news out of the White House today, student loan payments are still on hold until the end of the year, but that is the last time that payments will be delayed. President Biden says that forgiving the debt will lift the burden of Americans who have been struggling with the stress of making those payments.
But over time, that ticket has become too expensive for too many Americans. All this means is an entire generation is now saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for an attempt, at least, at a college degree. The burden is so heavy that even if you graduate, you may not have access to the middle-class life that the college degree once provided.
Mark, what do we know now? A lot of people are wondering, what do they have to do in order to receive this debt forgiveness?
That's right, Whitney. So here's what we know as of today. Nearly 8 million borrowers may already be eligible for relief through the Department of Education, and that's because they may have your income information already. If the department doesn't have your income data, you can complete an application that the Biden administration will launch in the coming weeks. We don't have an exact date on when that will open, but we are told it should open before the loan payment pause ends. Again, that's on December 31st. So in closing, stay tuned. More guidance is expected from the Department of Education in the coming weeks.
Certainly going to be interesting. Mark, thank you very much. And in the past few hours since that announcement, reactions have been pouring in. Some borrowers believe the Biden administration could have actually done more and should have canceled even more debt. Others hope that today's move will lead to further discussions about student loans and paying for college. For some students, the debt cancellation now giving them an opportunity to pursue further education.
I hope to see a discussion evolve, and it's not just about let's get rid of student loan debt, which is a start, but let's take that all the way through to how do we make higher education more affordable and accessible for all income brackets.
I'm only at college because I got the amount of financial aid I could get, and even then I'm taking loans out still, so it was really big looking into my future, wanting to get my PhD and study more, but like feeling constricted whether or not I would be able to financially or just have to go straight into working. But now with this, I'm able to continue into my master's.
All of this as Republican lawmakers are slamming today's announcement.
Just think about how unfair this is for all the Americans who are harmed by this, who are now on the hook for hundreds of billions of dollars of other people's loans.
In a scathing statement, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell called the president's plan student loan socialism. And financial experts say this pause will give people the opportunity to start building up savings and put money towards other things. Here locally today, we spoke to John Maroney from Numerica Credit Union about what this could mean for people here trying to keep up with those payments.
Maybe your payment was $500, $600, $700 a month. You've had a break for that for over 2 years. And maybe your budget has adjusted to not have that payment. Now having to bring it back in can definitely be really challenging for folks.
He says about 30% of federal student loan borrowers have a balance of $10,000 or less. So this forgiveness will have a huge financial impact. And we know this is a lot of information. You may still have some questions. So for more about this new forgiveness plan that was just announced today, you can text the word loans to 509-448-2000 and we'll send a link with more information directly to your phone. All right, switching gears and a weather alert tonight. Strong afternoon thunderstorms could be hitting our area here in the next few hours. Our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo, has been tracking this storm system all afternoon. Jeremy?
Well, Whitney, we have been watching out for the possibility of some strong storms, and we do have a few of those. Your main area is once again going to be northern Washington, but notice it goes a little bit farther south than Spokane today, with it stretching down into parts of Idaho. Now, when it comes to those storms, our low is now overhead. That does a few things. It gives us a little more energy. It means those storms are going to be a little more widespread than the past couple of days. We are tracking a couple of different systems. One of those off to the north in southern Okanagan County, kind of southeastern portions of the county. We've seen a strong storm move through Nispelum, and it's now falling apart. This is going to kind of be the case. The storms will get a bit stronger than they have the past couple of days, but then once again kind of fall apart without anything to really support these things. What we're seeing is that storm weekend earlier, nickel-size hail and 40-mile-per-hour winds out of that system. We now have a storm working its way through Stevens County, and this storm right here is looking rather strong. 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts just north of Chewelah. That storm is moving very slow, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. And that storm's going to continue to kind of track its way to the west slowly. Notice these storms are kind of moving in what would seem like the wrong direction, and they're moving rather slowly. Now, when it comes to that slow movement, let's go back over to southern Okanagan County and parts of Douglas County. What we're seeing there is a flood advisory for some of that heavy rain. Ponding on the roads is likely. We'll keep an eye on that threat as we move through the rest of the day because the storms aren't done yet. They likely stay around through about the 7 o'clock hour before they start dissipating later on this evening.
All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. And new at 4 tonight, earlier today, the former sheriff of Lincoln County pleading guilty to a criminal charge for helping cover up a DUI crash his son was involved in last year. Sheriff Wade Nelson faced up to 90 days in jail. Today, he apologized to his community ahead of that sentencing. KREM 2 was the only TV station that traveled to go be in court today. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk here now live in Davenport. Kyle?
Well, during his apology, the sheriff choked up and said he was wearing his dad hat that night and not his sheriff's hat. A judge sentenced him to 40 hours of community service. Now, this case goes back to February of 2021 when the sheriff's son rolled his car while driving to his dad's house. He left the scene and called dispatch hours later saying he swerved to avoid hitting a deer. According to court documents, Sheriff Majors wouldn't let his son go to the hospital until he sobered up. He had broken ribs and a pinhole puncture to the left lung. Now, weeks later, during an interview, the sheriff's son admitted to drinking 8 beers before driving that night, and he said he lied to protect his job and his dad, the county sheriff. Today, Majors pled guilty to rendering criminal assistance in the 3rd degree.
You should have known better. What were you thinking? It just hurts. It's disheartening to see someone in your position actually do something like this. And I know you're going to weather that storm for probably the rest of your life.
So again, the judge sentencing Majors to 40 hours of community service, which he has a year to complete. Majors has been with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office for the last 32 years. This April, he announced he would not be seeking re-election. Reporting live in Davenport, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much. It's now been 1 week since the trial against former Spokane police officer Nathan Nash began. And in that time, the court has heard from Spokane law enforcement, medical experts, and the 2 alleged victims. Today, the state finished up with its witnesses, and now it's time for the defense witnesses to take the stand. KREM 2's Janelle Finch is joining us live from the courthouse to share who the defense is calling up to defend Nathan Nash. Janelle?
Well, today the defense had just 2 witnesses, a Frontier behavioral health psychiatrist and Christine Nash, the wife of Nathan Nash. Nathan Nash was discharged from the Spokane Police Department back in 2019 after one woman accused him of rape. Then another victim came forward, also claiming Nash raped her back in 2019. On both occasions, the women claimed Nash was a responding officer on an initial 911 call. Then at a later date, Nash followed up with both of the women at their homes and raped them. Both of the women testified Nash committed these actions while in uniform. The alleged victims, along with other state witnesses, have been taking turns on the stand. Wednesday, the defense called on a psychiatrist who worked with one of the victims. He explains that the victim was previously diagnosed with a schizoaffective disorder back in 2020.
What did you diagnose her with?
Schizoaffective disorder, bipolar type. It's a mood disorder that has manic symptoms in the bipolar type. It can also include depressive symptoms. And in between mood symptoms, there's at least a 2-week period where there are psychotic symptoms, which could be delusions or hallucinations.
The doctor could not testify if the victim experienced this disorder in 2019 at the time of the alleged rape. In opening arguments, the defense did mention the credibility of one of the alleged victims would be questioned. Nash's wife also took the stand to defend her husband. She testified she heard a phone call conversation between Nash and one of the victims, and also communicated with Nash on one of the days of the alleged rapes. In opening arguments, the defense claims there isn't enough evidence to deem Nash guilty of these crimes, but tomorrow it'll be Nash's turn to take the stand to defend himself. Court is set to resume at 9 a.m. Reporting live from the Spokane-County Courthouse, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
All right, Janelle, thank you very much. A Wapato man has been sentenced to 50 years in prison for crimes the judge called horrible, if not monstrous. In 2019, 37-year-old Clifton Peter killed 3 people in a shooting spree. Peter's attack reportedly started after he got frustrated with a video game. Peter previously served time in prison for violent offenses in both 2011 and in 2013. Tonight, we are still waiting for a decision on Idaho's anti-abortion trigger law. A federal judge was expected to hand down a decision today in the DOJ's legal challenge of that law. It makes abortions in Idaho felonies with only limited exceptions in the cases of rape, incest, or to prevent the death of the mother. If the judge does not block the law, it will go into effect at midnight. A rare sight today on the Spokane River, one that we haven't seen for about 100 years. We'll tell you all about it when we come right back. Also, a story we have been talking a lot about here at KREM 2. Dozens of beagles rescued from Virginia. Well, they're now here in Spokane. We've got the latest on their journey to find a forever home after the break.